Hi dear students, welcome back to biology class. Let us continue with the chapter 2, that is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. This is 8th video from this chapter, and this chapter let us learn about the pollination, then different types of pollination and conditions which are required for the various types of pollination. First, let us try to understand what is pollination. The pollination, can be defined as the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is termed as pollination. Look at this. This is a flower, and this is the gynoecium. Okay. So this is also gynoecium here. As you all know that a typical carpel consists of three parts, that is stigma, and this is style, and this is ovary. Inside the ovary, ovules are present. Okay, and this is the androecium, and it is a stamen. Okay, so when anther matures, the pollen grains are released. These pollen grains, they carry male gametes, and in order to bring the fertilization, that is fusion of male and female gametes, there is a need to transfer these pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Okay. Hence, in order to transfer the pollen grains, a process is required, that is, the process is known as pollination. You can look at this. This is the anther in which the pollen grains are produced. These are the pollen grains, and these pollen grains, they are transferred to the stigma. Okay, so this is a stigma here. This process is known as pollination. In order to achieve this pollination, the plants have evolved with various strategies, and they also evolved to make use of various source for the transfer of pollen grains. Okay, so depending on the source of pollen, whether the pollen comes from the same flower of the same plant or another flower from the different plant, this pollination is classified into three types. The first one is autogamy, second one is Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy, third one is Xenogamy. Here you need to remember three types of pollination. Which are those three types? First one is autogamy, second one is Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy, third one is Xenogamy. Now let us try to understand what these type of pollinations are. First one is autogamy. Auto means what? Self. Gamy means marriage. That is, in this process, the transfer of pollen grains takes place from anther to the stigma of the same flower. You look at this. This is the one flower here. Let us consider only this flower. Okay, and these are the stamens, and this is the stigma. So in autogamy, the transfer of pollen grains takes place from stamen or anther of the same anther to the stigma of the same flower. Hence, this autogamy, it is also known as self-pollination. What is the another name for autogamy? It is a self-pollination. Then second one is Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy. This Geitonogamy, look at this. This is another plant here. Here we are considering the two flowers. Here the transfer of pollen grains takes place from anther to the stigma of another flower, but on the same plant. Here both flowers, they are present in the same plant. Okay, so pollen grains come comes from one flower, and this pollen grain, it is being transferred to the stigma of another flower. So this is known as what? Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy. Geitonogamy, it is genetically self-pollination because both male and female gametes, they come from the single parent. Then third one is Xenogamy. Xenogamy is a cross-pollination because the transfer of pollen grains takes place from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower, and this flower, it is present on the different plant. Okay, so you look at this here, this is one flower, this is anther, that is pollen grains comes from this anther and it is being transferred to the stigma of another flower which is present on another plant. Okay, so cross pollination, that is Xenogamy, it is both genetically and functionally it is a cross pollination. Later we will discuss in detail about all these three types. Now let us discuss in detail about Autogamy. Autogamy. Auto means what? Self. Okay, and gamy, it is derived from Greek word gamia, that is gamos means marriage. Okay, so what is autogamy? How can you define the autogamy? That is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower is known as autogamy. Look at this, this is the one flower and this is the stigma here. Okay, and this is the stamen here, and in the stamen it is anther. Here the transfer of pollen grains takes from this anther to the stigma of the same flower. Hence it is both functionally and genetically self-pollination. This is known as what? Autogamy. This definition is very important and you need to remember. Before discussing the conditions which are required for the autogamy, here we need to remember this type of pollination occurs in the same flower, and usually here the normal flower, it takes place in the normal flower where the normal flower opens and exposes both anther and stigma. Remember one thing, complete autogamy, it is very rare condition because there are, as the stamens and stigma they are exposed, there are chances that some percentage of cross pollination or pollen grains from other flower of the same species or from the different species can occur. It may occur. Therefore, the 100% autogamy is a rare condition in nature. Now, the conditions which are required for the autogamy are: number one, there is a need of synchrony between the release of pollen grains and receptivity of the stigma. It means the time duration of receptivity of the stigma. What is receptivity of the stigma? Here the stigma is able to accept the pollen grains, receive the pollen grain, and it can allow that pollen grain to germinate. There is a particular duration. Okay, so that is called receptivity. So the time period of receptivity of the stigma and release of the pollen grains should be synchronized. It means it should be at these two events takes place at the same time. Then second condition is the anther and stigma, they should lie close to one another so that it is very easy for the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Third condition is some of the plants, they produce two types of flowers. One is chasmogamous flowers, second one is clistogamous flowers. Then what are these chasmogamous flowers? The chasmogamous flowers, they are normal flowers. It means the flowers are open with exposed stamen and stigma. Okay, so such flowers are known as chasmogamous flowers. Look at this, we can say this flower is a chasmogamous flowers because here the both stamens and the stigma that is exposed. Whereas second one is clistogamous flowers. What these clistogamous flowers are? The clistogamous, clistos means closed, gamos means marriage. Here the flowers, they do not open at all. Always they remain closed. In such flowers, the anther and stigma, they lie very close to each other. When the anther dehisces, the pollen grains, they are released to they come in contact with the stigma. Okay. Thus, in clistogamous flowers, they are invariably autogamous because there is no chance for cross pollination. Why there is no chance for cross pollination in clistogamous flowers? Because they do not open at all. The flower, it will remain as if it is a bud. Hence the stamen and stigma, they are not exposed. Is it clear? Hence in clistogamous flowers, there is a 100% self-pollination takes place. These clistogamous flowers, they produce assured seeds even there are no any other pollinators, pollinating agents. I hope all these points are clear to you. The second one is, that is Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy. What is Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy? Here the transfer of pollen grains takes place from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower, but both the flowers, they are present on the same plant. Okay, how can you define the Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy? That is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Remember, dear students, here it is functionally, it is cross pollination because the pollen is from one flower and stigma is from another flower, that is ovules are from another flower. But remember, this is genetically, it is the self pollination because both pollen grains and ovules, they are from the same plant. Is it clear? So remember, Geitonogamy or Geitonogamy, it is functionally cross pollination involving pollinating agents, and genetically it is similar to autogamy. Now let us watch this video. You can observe, this is the anther and these are the pollen grains that we can see here. Okay, so these pollen grains are transferred to another flower, but this flower is also present on the same plant. Let us watch it again. Okay, look at this is one flower and these are the anthers here. Look at this, here are the pollen grains are released, and these pollen grains, they are transferred to stigma of another flower, but this flower is present on the same plant. Okay, I hope this point is very clear to you all. Then the third type is Xenogamy. What is Xenogamy? It is transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the another flower which is present on the different plant. Look at this. This is one plant, okay, and this is another plant. Here the pollen grains of this flower, they are transferred to the stigma of this flower. Remember, here these two flowers, they are present on different plants. Okay, so here it is functionally as well as genetically it is cross pollination, because the pollen grains and ovules, they are from different parent. Is it clear? This is what? Xenogamy. Dear students, let us watch one video to understand the xenogamy. Observe this carefully. This is one plant and this is another plant. Here these are the anthers. Look at this. This is the anther. Now the pollen grains. These pollen grains, they are transferred to the stigma. This is a stigma. Yes, it's very clear here. Gamy. Let us watch this video once again. Look at this. These are the pollen grains, and these pollen grains, they are transferred to the stigma of the flower, and these two flowers, they are present on the different plant. So this type of pollination is known as xenogamy. Dear students, this is very important video. From this video you need to remember the definition of pollination, then three different types of pollination, that is autogamy, Geitonogamy or Xenogamy, and third one is Xenogamy. In addition to this, in autogamy, the definition of autogamy you need to remember, and the conditions which are required for the autogamy. That is, there are three conditions that I have explained, of which the two types of flowers which are produced in plants like Viola, Oxalis and Commelina. Okay, so two types of flowers, that is what are chasmogamous flowers and what are clistogamous flowers, you need to remember, and you should be able to differentiate these three types of pollinations, that is autogamy, Geitonogamy and Xenogamy. We'll meet in the next video. Thank you.